Fuel is running out in Crimea. The occupation authorities prefer to give the remaining gasoline to the Russian army, while civilians are advised to be patient and wait. Residents have resorted to siphoning fuel directly from other people's parked cars. There are kilometer-long lines in other regions of Russia as well. Despite the authorities' attempts to hide everything, prices are skyrocketing and some gas stations are completely empty. Meanwhile, global media report that things in Russia will only get worse. You can learn more about all this in the TSN.ua report. The partisan movement Atesh reports that the fuel crisis in Crimea is getting worse. Informants from Feodosia say that the occupation authorities are deliberately limiting supplies for civilians. Gasoline is being given to the military first and foremost. Local drivers complain not only about the shortage, but also about the terrible quality of the fuel. Gasoline smells like paint. After refueling, cars stall and are hard to start. Because of this, criminal incidents have also become more frequent. Fuel is simply being siphoned off directly from parked cars. According to Ukrainian partisans, the situation will only get worse. They have called on the residents of the peninsula to be prepared for a complete collapse. And as for the residents of Crimea, they say it outright. They'd like to fill up with decent gasoline, but what can you do? But now you can safely switch to a Tesla, although it seems no one has seen a Tesla in Crimea yet.
The only thing is, prices were lower yesterday. Today, the price of gasoline went up. It was 80 rubles, now it's 82. It's actually very hard without gasoline, so thank you for that. Let's hope that our authorities, as they promised, will normalize life.
No, we have everything. Buy coupons or fuel cards. Right now, you see, it's only available for pesos. Do you think that's normal?
But there's no gasoline. We're working with diesel, but the price has gone up a bit, yes.
So what will happen next? People are just stocking up for tomorrow, for the day after tomorrow, thinking ahead and filling up with a bit of optimism. 30 liters of diesel fuel without restrictions. For me, the main thing is that there's gasoline because I drive a lot.
Right now you can kind of find something, Well, yeah, of course I'd like the right kind of gasoline, but there isn't any yet. 30 liters. Right now I'm getting 30 liters. Well, what can you do? Well, it all depends on the supply, but I don't know, maybe the government is somehow involved. I don't know.
Well, I'd like there to be no shortage, so you could just drive up and fill up calmly.
Well, of course, the price has gone up a bit. I think that's a lot. How much was it? It used to be 61 for 92 and now it's 70. Well, what's the reason for that? Well, just a little 2 or 3 rubles, but not, it's a lot. For a pensioner, that's a lot. Well, I'm from Tayumen myself. I just called my daughter. 95 is 65. 95 plus is 65.
At the end of September, the Russian occupation authorities in Crimea announced that local gas stations would be supplied with AI-95 gasoline within 2 days and AI-92 within 2 weeks. At the beginning of October, fuel did indeed appear, but only at certain gas stations. As of October 3rd, gasoline could only be purchased at 73 gas stations on the peninsula. The list of these stations was published by the so-called head of the Russian government of Crimea, Yuri Gotsanyuk, who suggested that residents look up the addresses themselves in the tables. The occupation administration also promises to freeze fuel prices for a month. According to the published rates, diesel fuel was supposed to cost no more than 75 rubles per liter. AI-92 gasoline up to 70 rubles, AI-95 up to 76, and premium AI-95 up to 80 rubles per liter. In addition, a limit has been set on the volume of sales, no more than 30 liters per person. The Russian so-called governor of occupied Sevastopol, Mikhail Razvozhayev, told Crimeans that if they arrive by car, they can choose to fill up either their vehicle or a canister. And if they come on foot, not to worry, they'll also be allowed to fill a canister. A service on par with the standards of the Russian world.
Hey, there's no gasoline in the city at all, only diesel is available. They brought some 95 octane to the Sevastopol gas station at 83.5. This whole line here is for the gas station. Most likely, it'll all be bought up soon. They brought in 2 tank trucks. Well, that's pretty much how it is.
And here are the lines in Feodosia. At the same time, the occupation authorities urged Crimeans not to panic and to refuel as usual. They also emphasized that social facilities, utility services, and emergency units are supposedly being fully supplied with fuel. And here's the line for gasoline in Alushta. is also no gasoline in temporarily occupied Mariupol. But as always, the Russians claim the fuel situation is under control, assures Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak. The government has decided to extend the ban on gasoline exports. The fuel shortage in Russia is spreading across the country. Now it has reached Chelyabinsk as well. At one of the local gas stations, the chain has introduced a limit of no more than 15 liters of gasoline per day. There's an announcement at the checkout. The reason is the unfavorable situation at the oil refining enterprises. To put it simply, after the drone attacks on Russian oil refineries, there just isn't enough gasoline, and prices on the exchange have skyrocketed. At the gas station, they explain that it's supposedly only temporary, but similar restrictions have already appeared at other stations in the network. For now, other companies are trying to hold on, but the situation is becoming increasingly tense. A certain crisis continues to engulf Russia. Now Biysk, the second largest city in the Altai Krai, has also been left without gasoline. The lines at gas stations stretch for kilometers, and even firefighters are waiting in line for gasoline, according to Astra readers. At half of the local gas stations, fuel has simply run out. The others are operating with restrictions. At Rosneft, on the old Choisky tract, the line is a kilometer long, and at Lukoil, near the Riviera shopping center, the situation is no better. All of this is being recorded by surveillance cameras. But the local authorities, as always, are reassuring everyone, saying there is no problem, the shortage is temporary, and the panic is being stirred up by unknown accounts. They say everything is under control. Fuel is already on its way. And of course, the blame lies with the panic and social networks. And this is the line for gasoline in the Pervomaisky district. Only 95th at 95 rubles per liter.
Gasoline at 95 rubles a liter.
Russian oil exports are breaking records. It's the highest figure in a year and a half, according to the Bloomberg. But it's too early for Putin to celebrate. This isn't a sign of stability, but a consequence of chaos after Ukrainian drone attacks on oil refineries. While refineries are shutting down one after another, Russians are desperately dumping everything they can for export. The ports of Novorossiysk, Ust-Luga, and Primorsk are already operating at full capacity. And in the east, Kozmino is also on the verge of being overwhelmed. Inside the country, there's a shortage of gasoline, while on global markets, Russian oil is getting cheaper. In September, Moscow was still earning over $1.4 billion a week, but by October, it had already lost at least 34 million simply due to falling prices. So these records are more a sign of crisis than of economic strength. And while Moscow is in a panic, Ukrainian drones have once again hit their target precisely. Another explosion occurred in the Leningrad region. After a strike by Ukrainian drones on the night of October 4th, the giant oil refinery in Kiryashi was shut down. According to Reuters, a unit with a capacity of 160,000 barrels per day was put out of commission. This is almost half of the entire plant's capacity. The fire was extinguished after more than an hour and a half, but the damage is serious. Repairs will take a month. To at least somehow maintain production, the Russians are starting up another unit, which had already been repaired after the previous drone attack in September. Now the plant will operate at only 70% capacity. Last year, the facility processed over 17 million tons of oil. That's more than 6% of all Russian oil refining.
Are you seriously kidding me right now or what?
Ukraine's new strategy is hitting the fuel heart of Russia, and this is already being felt in the economy of the aggressor country, writes the Washington Post. According to the publication, Ukrainian drone strikes on oil refineries have seriously reduced Russia's production capacity. The Kremlin is trying to simultaneously finance enormous military expenditures and keep the economy afloat, but resources are rapidly dwindling. Analysts from the Russian agency Siala have calculated that nearly 40% of the country's oil refining capacity is idle, mostly due to repairs after Ukrainian attacks. According to Volodymyr Nikitin from Siala, it is specifically Ukrainian drone strikes that have caused up to 70% of refinery shutdowns. To avoid an even greater collapse, some scheduled maintenance at Russian oil refineries has even been postponed in an attempt to maintain at least a minimal level of production. But the situation is getting worse. According to the Washington Post, the Russian market is already experiencing a fuel shortage of about 20% of monthly demand. That's roughly 400,000 tons of gasoline out of the 2 million the country consumes each month. One Russian newspaper reports that about 1 in 50 gas stations has already stopped selling gasoline. This is due to a reduction in domestic production by about 10%. On October 5th, The Economist published an article stating that powerful strikes by Ukrainian drones and missiles are significantly worsening the fuel crisis in Russia. The article says that nearly half of Russian oil refineries have been affected by the attacks, and the pace of strikes is accelerating. The number of hits has increased from a few per week to 4 or 5, and according to the author's forecast, it may soon become a daily occurrence. The article states that the campaign, tentatively called Deep Strike, has entered a new phase. In 2 months, more than 85 important targets have been hit, significantly reducing the potential of the Russian military-industrial complex. In 2 months, 16 out of 38 oil refineries have been damaged, some of them even multiple times. Diesel exports have dropped by about 30%. There is a shortage in the region's kilometer-long lines and fuel rationing. Cracking units that produce gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel have been destroyed, and replacing them is problematic due to sanctions. Ukraine is also attacking pumping stations and fuel storage facilities. Although it is difficult to completely destroy oil hubs, their damage seriously disrupts export routes. Selling crude oil brings the Kremlin significantly less revenue than trading in refined oil products. Unlike Russia's strikes on civilian targets, Ukraine is aiming at the economic heart of the Russian war effort, the infrastructure that fuels its war machine. While Russian generals boast about downed drones, the Kremlin is losing revenue, fuel supplies, and control over the domestic market. And what would Ukrainians like to wish Russians waiting in line for gasoline? Write to us in the comments. Stay with TSN.ua so you don't miss the main news. See you in the next episodes.